Hello and welcome to the Be Glad movement. My name is Pollyanna and I'm on a mission to bring you as many stories as possible of good coming out of bad and reasons to be glad. And today I'm joined by Katie. Say hello, Katie.
Hi everybody. Hello.
Katie, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'm going to let you dive straight in and tell your story.
Okay, so I'll start at the beginning. The most important thing really is, obviously, I have multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed when I was 23 years old. And it originally started as, kind of some desensitization in various different places. And then it was several years before, like that was when I was about 19, and then skip forward a few years and you end up with almost complete desensitization down the left-hand side of my body. Which means it's not paralysis, so I could still walk and I could still do things, but it means that when you touch the skin, you don't have the same degree of feeling in it, and it also hurts at the same time. It's a little bit like when you've got pins and needles in your foot when you've been sitting on it for a long time, and you know that feeling where it's starting to come back to life, but you can't quite feel it, but it still hurts. It was that sort of feeling, but all over the left-hand side of my body.
Wow.
So, yeah, but it was surprising, and it brought me to basically be in bed or housebound for somewhere between 3 to 4 months. It's really hard for me to put an exact time scale on it. It was around about that sort of time, and I bought my own house when I was about 22, so I was living in my own house, and it was, I was very much on my own at the time. It was a very interesting part of my life in the sort of Chinese proverb sense of the word, as in interesting times. It wasn't the most desirable of situations, being at home on my own, with very little movement, and I wasn't diagnosed at this point, so it meant that I didn't really know what was happening. It was just this great sense of, you really need to stay still, like really still, and not do anything. And so what came with it was, what happens for a lot of people with MS is debilitating fatigue. And fatigue is not like tiredness that people understand at the end of the day, that, oh look, I'm really tired. And fatigue is, you can't lift your arm up to pour a kettle of water. You can't get up and down the stairs, because it's just putting one foot in front of the other is really exhausting. I was sleeping for about 21 hours a day, I would say. The hours I wasn't sleeping, I was washing and eating and sleeping. That was literally it. There was nothing else happening in my life for a very long time.
Gosh.
Eventually, after a few months, I started to come out of it, but I hadn't yet been diagnosed. So I was very, it was a slow movement from sort of being at home and not really doing anything very much to that going back to work. The only thing I actually had done during the entire time was learn to play guitar, because I had a guitar and I could move my hands, which was great, but I couldn't really, I was too tired to do anything, but I could play the guitar. So that's what I did. I pretty much played the guitar the whole time, which was great, because it means that I could then play the guitar, even though I couldn't do, there's plenty of things I couldn't do, but I could play the guitar. So I was gonna run with that. And I went back to work, and it was okay, but it was very difficult and it was always difficult from that point onwards to then work a full-time job, which I had been doing before, because even though I was recovered, generally speaking, the fatigue was still crippling. I wasn't sleeping as much as I had been, though. When I was finally diagnosed, I think it was about 6 months after that. It was at that time, access to neurology services where I lived in Reading were pretty poor. For a long time when I was going to the doctor, they didn't believe that there was anything wrong with me. They was like, no, you're fine. You've got a trapped nerve in your back. It's fine. I was like, well, sure that I do have a trapped nerve in my back. But of course, you just nod and you kind of, and I was very young, so you just kind of go, oh, okay, fine, it'll go away, will it? Oh, okay, fine. And then as it got worse, you know, as that stuff got worse, I realised that it was more than the said trapped nerve. And so eventually I had got to my neurology appointment, by which point I was very much more recovered than I had been at the worst of it. I was up and I was working. Admittedly, I think I was probably still only working part-time. So I had what they call sort of like it's like a dropped foot. And so I tripped over my feet regularly because my foot would get it would forget what it was supposed to be doing. So it was sort of walking along, I would walk and then I would trip over my foot. And, you know, just that kind of, like, it's just annoying more than anything, but lots of people trip, but it was just a constant tripping. So my foot didn't kind of do what it was supposed to do on the left-hand side. My arms had gone back to normal pretty much, but my leg was there's still a lot of tripping and limping, and, you know, I was still very fatigued. So when I saw the neurologist, and she we did brain scans and sort of MRI scans and all that kind of stuff, and she showed me what my brain looked like. And it was quite nice to see I had a brain. It was, you know, like, oh, I have a brain. It's nice. You know, it was really strange, but it was, you know, it was fine. And she said, you can see here and here and here. And I was like, all these sort of what they call plaques on the brain. And I said, okay, so when am I going to get better? And she said, well, you're not going to get any better. I was like, oh, right. I see. Okay. And she said, but it is relapsing remitting, which is sort of the most benign form of MS that you can have. So you can have relapsing remitting, you can have secondary progressive, which is what was relapsing remitting MS that turns into MS that never gets better, or you can have what they call primary progressive MS, which is, it gets bad and it just continues to get bad ad infinitum. Right. So, but it is relapsing remitting because it's got better than it was before. I was like, yeah. Okay, so it has got better, so it's relapsing remitting, but surely that means it can get better still. She said, well, at this stage, it's very unlikely. I was like, right, okay. And thus it went on so that was about 23 then. And I think I made a decision at that point that was not going to be my future. And I remember sort of limping out of the hospital and going home and having a good think about what it was that was actually important. And of course, everybody tells you your health is the most important thing you've got, and you nod because you go, yes, it is. And then you think about all the other things that are actually secondarily important. Because you've got your health and it's fine. And before that, I was a perfectly healthy 23-year-old. There was nothing really nothing particularly to write home about. It was just a normal existence, the same as everybody else. I worked, I partied, I did what everybody did. And I didn't have any deep and burning ambitions or desires other than to travel. That was all I wanted to do. So then I got MS, and I was, you know, so 23 then, and then over the next couple of years, I worked and thought and worked part-time because I was still too tired really to do any full-time work, and trying to decide what it was how I was going to progress with my life. And I didn't really know how I was going to progress, what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to travel, so I decided that was the most important thing to me at that time. There was nothing, there was no career path that I was looking at that sort of filled me with joy or anything. I was like, okay, so if my body is going to get worse, which everybody seems to tell me it's definitely going to get worse, in 10 years' time, I might not be able to walk at all, or I might go blind, or maybe I can't swallow, or maybe I'm in so much pain that I can't do anything. Yeah. And, you know, because with MS, because of the way it interrupts the signals from your brain and down your spinal cord, you can pretty much have any symptom under the sun. There's so many different things, there's so many different ways it presents, and it presents differently for everybody. There are common things between us. We all have, you know, most people suffer fatigue and most people suffer pain. Some people get very dizzy and they fall over. Some people, and it's, you know, they feel very embarrassed because they feel like they're drunk, or they look like they're drunk but they're not drunk. And then obviously for some people, a lot of people go blind. It's their first sign that they've got MS, is that they lose their sight. Does tend to come back, but it doesn't for everybody. Some people swallow, they can't cough. I mean, it literally could go on with the things. And so I'd been introduced to various different, you know, kind of pamphlets and leaflets and things over the years by the MS Society and by the neurologist and all the rest of it. And I was always getting a little bit better. I was okay. You know, as the months went on, I was all right, until the point where I was still very, very fatigued and I was still in pain, but I didn't fall over quite as much as I had before. I didn't trip quite as much as I did. I could walk. And I was pretty healthy. I was okay. But I didn't really have, at that stage, any deep understandings of how my body functioned in relation to MS. It was luck that it rescinded. It wasn't anything that I felt that I was doing. It was just like I felt under the control of it, not like I had any control over it, which is how many people feel. It's really common because you do feel like it takes away it takes away your control. It takes away a lot of decisions that you might otherwise make. So anyway, I then about 25, I then decided I would go traveling. And I remember that my insurance had to be so that, and it still is, my insurance is always the same if I go anywhere, is that they don't cover for MS related things, you know. So if I find that like I get a severe relapse and I can't walk, then, you know, you have to pay for the care to get home or whatever it is. And that's okay. I was willing to take that risk because I wanted to do it. I wanted to travel more than anything. So I did. So I started to travel. I went to India first and then Nepal. I went to Malaysia and Sri Lanka and Singapore and Australia and New Zealand and I don't know, Germany and Spain and France and Italy. And I mean, like lots of places, Scotland, I mean, lots and lots of places over the next 3 years, that kind of time, like a really long time. And I kind of didn't, I really enjoyed that lifestyle. It was nice. It worked quite well for me because you don't have to do anything that your body doesn't want to do. So if I wanted to sleep for 3 days, I could sleep for 3 days because there was no demands upon me. And it makes to move out of society where there's always people requiring things of you makes a huge difference to how you can listen to your body. It's the same for everybody. If they go away, they get time to listen to their bodies, they get time to read books and delve deeply into self-improvement. Lots of people come back deeply changed from even short amounts of travel, but I was very fixated on finding ways to be healthier.
Right.
And because I just wanted to be healthy. There really wasn't anything else that was important to me. It was travel, which I loved, but it was actually be healthy and have a body that works. And during that time, I was pretty good. But again, it was always suffering fatigue, always suffering pain, but manageable pain. Wow. And the symptoms, the main symptoms that I'd have to deal with would be, you know, kind of how heavy do my legs feel today? Am I going to be able to have a vibrant day walking around, or am I going to have to make the decision that today is a day for reading? You know, there was always that listen to your body and do what it's telling you, like the sense of having no choice about what you're going to do. And I got very used to that, and I am very used to it, and you become particularly good at it. And it's actually a pretty good skill for everyone to have, you know, to truly listen to your body is really, really good. It allows you to, instead of drinking coffee and burning through things, or going out and having a late night, even though you probably know you shouldn't, and this is the same for everybody, is whether you listen to what your body needs and you can move towards your own sense of wholeness and wellness. So anyway, I met my husband just over 10 years ago now, and when I met him, because we've talked about this a lot recently, because I've been talking about MS a lot recently, and so we've talked about this and sort of how was I when he met me to how I am now, and it is miles apart of how well I was then to how well I am now. And I look back on pictures, like we'd still go walking. Like we are very, like, I love walking. I'm very fixated on mountain walking. I love going up mountains. I love going on sort of long walks or whatever I can, and I always have done. And I would always try to do those, but I'd have to very carefully plan how each day was going to go. So you can either go out tonight, or you can go for a walk, but you can't do both. So you choose between which you do. Whereas if you're able-bodied, you just go for a walk and then you'll go out, and it's fine. And and then the next day you'll get up and you'll do the same again, and you just keep rinse and repeat, and it's fine. But I never had the option of doing everything. You have to segment things very carefully into each section. And when I first met my husband, we'd go for a walk, and I always had a walking pole, because I was still very unstable. I wouldn't call it a walking stick, but a pole, because I was very unstable. I would trip over and fall over, and if we went off the path, I couldn't lift my legs high enough to get over wriggly sorts of things, if that makes sense, like roots and stuff. And I hated it, because he loved tramping off into the middle of the wilderness. I'm just like, I just can't follow you. I will fall over, and it made me really angry because I just couldn't do it.
Right.
And so anyway, so then I met him, and we sort of together have over the years been really calculating in finding a route to wellness. And I used to take lots of sort of painkillers for pain, obviously, but sort of neuropathic painkillers, and that was the main thing. And they have multiple side effects, and one of the main ones is that they really dulled my mind. They made me feel really stupid, but I didn't really have a choice, because to stop taking them, it was very, very uncomfortable. So there wasn't much choice. It was kind of, that's what it was, and it had been for many years. And then we wanted to have a baby, so we got married and we wanted to have a baby, and that's when everything really started to change. And it was because of my daughter. Even though she didn't exist yet, it was because of her. And so I sort of talked to the neurologist, and I said, okay, so the first questions I want to know is this hereditary? Am I going to give this to my child? Obviously. And had the answer been yes, then I go, I don't think I'll have a baby. Thank you very much, because I don't want to do that. But he said, no, not hereditary. It's, you can't, it's not something you pass that. Okay, so that's fine. That's the first thing. So can I take the painkillers whilst I'm pregnant? And he kind of went, well, you could, but it's probably better not to. It's like, okay, right. So then I needed to find a way to be pregnant without taking those painkillers.
Right.
And that I tried a couple of times to come off them. You sort of wean yourself off these things, as you do with everything. And it didn't go well. It was impossible. Like it was absolutely impossible. And I was like, oh my God, okay, so we can't have a baby then. I'm going to get a dog instead. I can't have a child because I can't come off this medication. I'm just going to get a dog. We'll buy a dog, and I will pretend I don't need a baby and it'll be fine. And so we got a dog, and we have a wonderful dog. He hasn't started barking yet, so we're lucky. So we got a dog. And at the same time as getting my dog, I thought there has to be another way. And I thought, okay, so I know a little bit about acupuncture. I don't know an awful lot about it, but I'd had it once or twice in my life, and it had always been quite good. And it meant to be very good for pain. This is what people talk about. It's very, people, all sorts of different things, the acupuncture is quite good. So, okay, you can't get it on the NHS because you can't. And I think the MS Society does offer some free acupuncture, but I kind of wanted somebody. I didn't want my acupuncturist to have change. I didn't really know what I wanted, but I knew that it needed to be somebody who was close to where I lived. So I found an acupuncturist, somebody that I really liked, and she is absolutely wonderful. And so I went to her and I said, well, look, I wanted to come off these painkillers, and I want to do that. But really, the only thing I wanted to do was come off the painkillers so that I could have a chance of having a baby. I didn't really want to do anything else. It's not even like I'm massively maternal, but I did just want a child. It was like I was 32. I was like, yeah, I quite like a baby now, please. And she said, okay. So she started the process of my treatment, and I think at the beginning I went, I think twice a month but actually I go twice a month. I have gone ad infinitum now. I go twice a month all the time. So twice a month, and I started to have acupuncture. And I think I'd come off that medication within about 4 or 5 months. I think it was gone completely. So, and I was not just not off the medication, I was pain-free. And it was astounding. Like, it's like, oh my God, I'm actually pain-free. Okay, so that's making one choice in my life, and that is to have acupuncture. And luckily for me, it works. It doesn't work for everybody, but it does work for a lot of people. But of course, most people don't have, like, we have made a lot of sacrifices so that I can have acupuncture twice a month. We don't go on many holidays. But we could go, for the money we spend on acupuncture, we could go on lovely holidays. But actually, it's so much more important that my body functions properly. That it's just the decisions that we've made to make this happen. So I had acupuncture, and really, all I wanted was just to get off the pain medication. And then it was like, do you think that we can deal with the fatigue as well? She's like, yeah, let's work on the fatigue. Now pain is more or less gone. And between us, we started to work out what worked in my life and what didn't. Acupuncture obviously works very well. And she started to give, to do acupuncture to not just pain, but for the fatigue as well. And slowly, again, over the years, my fatigue lifted, and, but quite quickly it lifts. And now if I'm feeling rubbish, I can have a session, and within a day or so I'll be back to feeling normal again.
Wow.
So it's really, it really does, because I have such a residual background of it, and it's always that, like, wellness. It works very quickly for me. So it was we did first of all the pain, and then the fatigue, and then I started to wonder what else was going to make a difference. So by this point, I got pregnant, with it whilst all this was happening. I got pregnant, and I had my baby. And it was like I had an emergency C-section because she wasn't willing to be born normally. But it was fairly, as standard sort of things go, fairly unpleasant, but and it was a long time recovering from surgery and all the rest of it, but it was fine. I had this baby, and it was wonderful, and I had no plans to go back to work at all. I was like, I'm going to remain at home, and I didn't really think at that time that I genuinely would have enough energy to do anything other than be a mother, because even though my fatigue had reduced, it was still considerably worse than the average person, if that makes sense. But it was getting better. And so this kind of rocked on for a couple of years. And then my daughter was coming up to about 1, and I was starting to get a little bit bored, because I'm used to doing things all the time, and I like doing things, I like working, and I like doing things, but I kind of realized I needed things to be very much in my own court. My time of working for other people was definitely over.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to start my business. It wasn't really, I think I probably was thinking about it, but not consciously thinking about it, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I made my daughter one of these here, like a little keepsake bear.
Awesome.
Out of her baby grows, because I was feeling sentimental, and I'm a good seamstress. I can sew, like I can make, and I have, you know, I've got better over the years, but you know, I can make whatever it is out of fabric that you would like to be made, basically.
Awesome.
And so I just thought, well, how about I make Felicity one of these. I'd seen a bear on Pinterest, and it was made out of baby grows, and I thought it was pretty cute. And I thought, oh well, I'm going to make one of those for Felicity. But I didn't really think too deeply about it. Beyond it was cute and it was nice, and I made it, and I made it, and it was very cute. Not that one, different one. It wasn't nearly as, actually, now I look back at it, it wasn't that good by comparison to the ones I make now. It was pretty shady, but it was still very nice. And I put pictures of it onto Facebook, and people asked, can you make me one? And I said, yeah, I suppose I probably can. Yeah, I can make you one. And that's how my business was born. But it was very accidental. I still had this little girl that wasn't, you know, she didn't go to nursery. We spent all of our time together, and I was still deeply fatigued. And then I started a business by accident.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can do it. But, you know, it energizes you. You know, you get the enthusiasm to do things when you have things that's completely yours to do. And I was very enthusiastic, and I just kind of did it. When we look back, when did you sew and do things? I don't know. She did nap a lot. So, you know, she was a 2 hours in the morning and a 2 hours in the afternoon kind of a child. Yeah, she was amazing. She was literally an angel baby. She was the best. And 12 hours a night, and she was just like, she'd wake up to eat, but she just went back to sleep again. Like, none of this all night screaming and reflux and all the things that all my mummy friends were so entrenched in. I just used to sit there quietly and go, because she was so easy. Like, she really was wonderful.
I think you deserved an easy child, really, considering everything else.
Yeah, we really, like, we kind of, when we decided to have a baby, we just prayed and prayed that we'd have an easy baby, because if we hadn't had an easy baby, we weren't sure how we would manage. But we would manage, because everybody does, and we find ways. But, you know, and we found ways. Like, even though she was an easy baby, I went to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock every night, you know, and just to get enough sleep in so that I could be there in the daytime functioning properly. And there were ups and downs and all the rest of it, but she was excellent. And so then I started my business, and so I started to build my business, and that was fine. And obviously, as comes with MS, you have ups and downs constantly. So it's always a state of looking for how, like, keeping yourself on that upward spiral, so that if you get knocked down, you don't fall too far, and being able to get it up again quickly before you come down again. So it's that constant sort of balance and struggle, that you don't overdo things that knock you down that spiral. And it's a really careful balance. But I still constantly learn the best ways to do things. But I'm in a very different place to how I was then. So I started my business, and then I sort of rolled along with that, and I started to realize things like, if I was fit, like physically fit, that it's easier to climb that spiral, as it is for everybody. And because I wasn't in constant pain anymore, and because I wasn't cripplingly fatigued, I thought, well, I can actually be fit. And also, I have to thank my dog as well, because in the same time that I was starting, when I first started the acupuncture to get off that medication, I got the dog at the same time. And when you get a puppy, you can't walk them very far, because they've got little legs and they can only walk for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they have to go home because they get too tired.
Sure.
It was perfect, because I took the dog for a walk, and I could do 10, 15 minutes, and then I was tired and I needed to go home again. So the dog and I grew up together, in the sense that I would walk with him and he'd get tired, and so would I, and we'd go home and have a nap, because I had no baby then, so we could sleep in the day. And you know, it's and so as he got bigger and stronger, at the same time I got bigger and stronger with him. And so we had this wonderful connection where, I mean, we literally spent all our time together when he was really little. And he really is, he would sit on my, he's 45 kilos, so he can't sit on my lap, but he wants to, because he will, if I sit on the sofa, he's up there for a snuggle immediately, because he's just very much, you know, kind of you know, he's very, very much into having cuddles and being with his mummy. But
Oh.
So we kind of developed and grew together, which meant that I had this background of fitness when my daughter came along, just walking fit, but walking fit is fantastic. When you can't walk very far, walking fit is amazing. And I realized I could take that slightly further because I wasn't so tired. So I could start to run. And I think I tried to run a bit, but, you know, so I did run, and I could do exercise classes in the gym as long as I was really careful. Yoga was really important because that obviously helped with that inner core, that core balance and all that kind of stuff. So I did less of the tripping and the random lurching to the side, which you kind of do because you suddenly lose balance and you get really dizzy and then you kind of half fall over, but then you stand up again. So it's weird. It's like having one of, you know, those the things that carpenters use that have got a bubble in the middle that you lift, that you sort of do like that. So that little bubble would make my brain, and occasionally it would do that, and I go like that, and and you just kind of go, what am I doing? Okay, I'm here again, and then you be righted. And so that, but I would get less of that the fitter I got, and I trip over less the fitter I got, as long as I'm very careful about not overdoing it.
Sure.
So, so I did that, and then the really important part that was the next piece in it, and I was really good, or what I thought was really good, because I was so much better than I had been my entire adult life at this point. I was a little bit fit. I was doing exercise, you know, not a lot, but a bit. I was walking the dog. I was still napping many afternoons, but not every afternoon. And that was great, because I had, before that, I would nap every afternoon. Without my nap, you can forget it. I won't be talking to you in the evening because I will be so tired, I'm useless. And, you know, I wouldn't have been I napped at the same time as Felicity slept in a lot of time. And it was absolutely fine. But I was still so much better than I had been before, that it felt miraculous. And then, so 2 years ago, I decided to do dry January, because I think lots of people were doing it. And I thought, oh, well, I don't drink very much anyway. I'm really busy in January, because I was starting, at that time, I was starting sewing workshops, and they happened to be starting in January.
Right.
And so it was, you know, where I could, because I'm by this point, I was teaching people to sew. So it kind of, the business has sort of moved along with it all at the same time. And as I get healthier, I've sort of grown the business in more places as I can, because I have more energy to do so.
Okay.
I had these sewing lessons starting, and they were group workshops where I take all the sewing machines and take everything people need, and they come along and they learn to make something in a day. And so I had all of these booked in for January. And so I was like, right, I've got a really busy January. And for me, drinking, I don't drink very much, but for me, drinking probably means a late night, because it means I'm going out. I never drink at home. Like, I don't drink much anyway, but I definitely go out of a Saturday night and have a couple of gin and tonics or something like that, you know, have night, as everybody does. And so I thought, right, I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to have dry January, and I've got these workshops to do. I'm going to be really busy. So I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. That's fine. And then after about 2 weeks, I suddenly realized that I didn't need to nap anymore. I was like, that's really strange. I'm not napping. It's like, I feel weirdly good. Like, this is really weirdly good. I don't think I've ever felt this good in my life. I was like, okay, so I don't need to nap. And then I was like, I actually have so much energy now. I think I might need to start running. I was like, oh my God, what on earth is going on? Like, it was really weird. And I think, is it alcohol? I was like, oh my God, am I like allergic to alcohol? And it just triggers my MS so profoundly that it makes me so much worse than I otherwise might have been, which is really ridiculous, because I barely drink anything anyway. But I probably drank a couple of gin and tonics every 10 days, something like that, you know, just that sort of thing. But if it took me 2 weeks to stop napping, that means that maybe it stays in my system in some way for that long. And I was like, this is really strange. But it was hard to believe, because it seemed so easy and so obvious and almost annoying that I'd been accidentally poisoning myself my whole life. But that was okay. So I was like, oh, okay, this is great. So I'm fine. And so I didn't drink then until June. And I just got better and better, continued with acupuncture, and I didn't drink at all till June that year. And it was completely amazing. And then I thought, oh, well, come on, it can't be that bad for you. You know, like, how bad? You've drunk your whole, it can't be that bad. So I had 2 gin and tonics with my sister on a sunny summer's day or something like that, which was absolutely delicious and delightful and lovely. I was then hungover for 10 days, and
Wow.
I kept slipping in, like, I'd be talking and I kept slipping, like, literally struggling to stay awake. I was so tired. My fatigue levels rocketed, like went really, really high. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this was 2 gin and tonics. And so my guess that alcohol had been so toxic to me was correct. And I haven't drunk since then. So I basically, at that point, so that was just over 2 years ago, I think, something like, it might be longer than that now, but anyway, it was about 2 years ago. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. So what else does my body not like that I'm accidentally poisoning myself with, that I haven't thought about because I haven't challenged it, because everybody does it? And so slowly I've been removing things from my diet in, you know, kind of that I don't think do me any favors. So I can only do that by knowing what you feel like when you have them, if that makes sense. So I don't eat now, sort of reel forward a little bit. I have a very low carb diet, but I do eat carbohydrate. I eat all fruit, and I eat all vegetables and stuff like that. I just eat bread and potatoes and all the really heavy carby things, because they make me feel sluggish and tired and a bit bad tempered sometimes, you know, that kind of like, and that bloated feeling. I was like, I don't want to feel bloated. So it's nothing particularly to do with MS. I was like, I just don't want to feel bloated. Who wants to feel bloated? So it's like, right, so we can ditch that. And I don't eat any sugar particularly. I mean, occasionally I might have a cake or something, but then it gives me a headache, so it's not really worth it. But I don't eat any sugar apart from fruit, you know, and because it doesn't make me feel good. And I've gone on this journey of just figuring out what on earth it is that, like, what every little single thing that makes me feel worse, I eliminate. And I just eliminate them. And then sometimes I bring them back in and it doesn't do any different. You know, I go, oh, okay, so fine. It makes no difference if I eat, you know, kind of bananas or not. And it's absolutely fine. And it's been very interesting because now I have a lot of energy now. It's very rare for me to ever be tired in the daytime. I don't think about whether or not I've got enough energy to walk to the shops and then to go out. I don't think about whether I'm going to go for a walk. I just do everything. I function almost entirely normally. I do still have ups and downs, but instead of them being like that sort of up and down, they're like that. They're much, much easier. Because I'm so high up that spiral of energy and fitness and health, I don't fall down very far. So I might have 24 hours or I'll go, I'm just staying in bed now. Just ignore me for 24 hours. I'm going to lie in the dark and I'll be fine. And I will come out of it the other side and I'll be absolutely fine so far. But of course, you don't really know what's going to happen. Like I don't have control over MS. Like, of course I don't, but I have control over how my body feels in this moment. And so that is, that's the, just the moment of now is all that I'm really interested in.
Fantastic. Wow. What an incredible journey, you know, from the original diagnosis to then finding your husband, but noticing that the physical activity helps, but then the alcohol thing is a massive part of your journey, and just noticing just the sheer chance that you did that dry January and noticing the difference. Because like you say, I think, you know, we expect things to suddenly happen, you know, oh, I'm going to eat a cake and I suddenly get a headache. I mean, I know that does happen for my mum, but
that does happen for me as well, but only because I never eat cake now. And so when I do eat cake, I go, my God, that was sweet, like, you know, and it's like, and I get a headache. So I kind of, like, it's not that enjoyable. And so clearly my body doesn't like it that much now. But yeah, so it's...
But to have that extended period of time of the dry January to notice that how much better you felt without the alcohol, and then the confirmation of that couple of gin and tonics with your sister, that really confirmed it for you, and the fact that again it took 10 days, because I think quite often just people in general going on diets, and it doesn't sort of instantly make them slimmer or whatever effect that they want to have from that diet. They give up on it too quickly. So I love that you're doing all this trial and error. Have you ever thought about employing a nutritionist to sort of help you with that, or you've just 100% trial and error, see what happens?
Yeah, no, I feel I might do at some point. At the moment, I don't feel particularly compelled to at the moment, but I am very happy to talk to anybody who thinks that they have. It's not so much that I don't want to, I just haven't thought about it, because I've just been like, well, you know what, I'm in a good place. And so food doesn't, it does have an effect on me, but it doesn't have such a tremendous effect like alcohol that it makes me feel really, really rotten. It's very small noticeable things that, kind of, I think before I would have brushed under the carpet and just thought, oh, well, it's just this, that, or the other. It doesn't matter. Oh, it's only a little headache. But it's that real deep awareness of how your body, or how my body is feeling. I'm really noticing, oh, that made my heart palpitate. Why is my heart palpitating now? And really focusing in on what it is. And of course, a lot of things are wrapped up in emotional things as well. So you do need to do a lot of internal work that's not just about the physicalities of what you're doing, but, there's a lot of internal work of finding your positive place so that you have the energy to go through what you need to do, because everything isn't that easy. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol, but there was a moment, when my husband and I looked at each other and I said, I'm not going to be able to drink again, and we looked at each other and went, oh my god, we're never going to be drunk together again. We're like, oh. And we actually had to mourn that, because we like being drunk together, it's fun. It's like, but it took us quite a few weeks to mourn that passing of that stage of our life. And now we don't even think about it, because it's not, we don't mourn it anymore, but we had to give it space to feel, to feel like, oh, that's sad, and it is sad that you can't do X, Y, and Z, but then you just think that the payoff is so much greater to what, kind of, and it's like, it's not even an option now. There's
yeah. Crikey. And then the other bit that I found really interesting about your story is the whole having had your daughter, because I similarly, when I had my son, that sort of, you're clearly a person with a very active mind and actively wanting to keep stimulated, to have been learning the guitar while you were originally sort of laid up in bed. You certainly weren't going to let that time pass away unutilized, but to then have your child and feel like you need to do something else and then find the sewing, that's really cool too. And that's what you do full time now, the sewing. So not only making those lovely creatures behind you there, but also running workshops to teach other people.
Yeah, so so my life, well, I do a lot of different things now, actually. So Memory Zoo itself makes, as a company, makes animals for people, keepsake animals out of their baby grows, or cushions out of shirt, grandpa's shirt, that kind of thing. But increasingly I sew less of them, so I have a team of seamstresses who make them, and it's what I've tried to do for them is set them up. They work from home, so they're all freelancers, and what I wanted to do for them more than anything was to give them what I didn't have. What would have been really nice was, here, have some work that you can do from home, but that you don't have to stress about how you're going to get the work, and you're getting paid a nice amount of money, and you're making beautiful things. Now, if somebody had given me that, if they'd said, would you like to make these, I'd have nodded and I'd said yes, most definitely would. Probably, it's hard to know, because I didn't really intend to build a business. But I realized I do actually really quite like building the business, but I wanted to give a working opportunity to people who were in a similar position to me for whatever reason, and they do tend to be mothers. I've got some retired people who work for me as well. and but it's a perfectly accessible job for people who are housebound, as long as they've got a functioning, as long as they can physically do it. For housebound people, whether that's through mental illness or through physical disability or whatever, we don't work to deadlines at all. So there's been things that I put in that are fundamentally important to how I have worked my business, and I'm really honest with my customers. I was like, well, I do not work to deadlines, and my ladies, because they all happen to be ladies, but men are perfectly acceptable as well. I'm happy for anybody who wants to learn. Then I want them to work with me, because I want them to feel free to be brilliant and feel that they're more than whatever their illness or their conditioning or makes them. I want them to feel like they're more than they are, and if I can give them a little helping hand towards that, then that's going to make life so much happier for everybody. And also, everybody wants to make money, so it's not just about money. It's about so much more, the part of the community of it. And we have like a Facebook, like we have a sort of a secret Facebook group where the training videos and all the rest of it come on there, but various different things on there. So it's really small at the moment. There's 2 people. I have 2 seamstresses at the moment. I've got 2 more starting in January, so that'll bring us to 4. But I'm looking to have at least 10 by halfway through next year. So June next year, I'm looking to have 10. So I'm always looking for more people. But part of growing it, I dithered and dallied for ages about how I wanted to grow the business. And people go, oh, you should outsource them to China. And I was like, I don't want to do that. It doesn't resonate with me. It's not how I want my business to be. I don't have anything against anybody who wants to outsource to China. That's absolutely fine, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it took me a while to understand how I wanted my business to function, because I wanted the people, not just to bring joy to the people we were creating things for, which we absolutely do, but I wanted to bring joy to the people who are working as well. And so because to me, it's not a job. It's like, it is a job, but it's not like, it's what I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. Like, it's not so much, I do love the making of it, but it's the whole function of everything that it creates for me and creates for the people who are working for me. So I wanted it to feel for them like whoever they were. Sorry, my computer keeps pinging. As though they had opportunity that they might not have felt they had otherwise.
Yeah.
So, and that's become increasingly important. It's a really strong message for me. So, that I want the ethos of my business to be a community, and for people to feel welcome, empowered, that they a can-do attitude.
Yeah.
With their own life.
I love that. I love that from your own experiences, that you're able to create a working environment that's so much kinder for the people that are now helping you with your business.
Really, really cool. It's really important that it's kind, and that's exactly the right word, and that they feel like they have a choice, and that it brings them joy to do it, but within whatever their own constraints are. So people, whether they've got children, that is a constraint, or if they've got physical disabilities or mental health issues, or whatever it is. So we don't work to deadlines. And I'm really clear about that, because I can't force people. You can't get great, beautiful, created products when you're working to a deadline. That's not how artists function. That's not how it comes. And it's occasionally, like, the only exception to that is coming up to Christmas. And even then, I'm very cagey about it. And sometimes I have to tell people, I'm really sorry, this just can't happen, because people aren't magic. And it's important to work with what you can do, and I wish more people would.
Yeah, and I think in this day and age, because we've all got used to one-click Amazon Prime and goodness knows what else, expecting things to arrive on our doorstep the next day, we forget that actually to have something really beautiful that has had a lot of love, care and attention put into it is worth the wait. Even if you just send someone a little card saying you will get your gift eventually, but it's going to be made with love rather than just picked off a shelf by a robot.
Yeah, and not made with stress or anxiety, and not made with like, what's the word I'm looking for, dislike of doing it. You know, I don't want anybody to feel that when they're making things that they're irritated that they have to do it. It's because that is not the right space to create. That means you've got to go off and you need to do something else to lift your essence higher, and to whatever it is for you that works. If it's running or meditating or cooking a beautiful dinner or reading a book or writing a journal, it doesn't matter what it is, but that you have the space within your life to allow yourself to be the absolute best version, the most beautiful version of yourself. And then you can put that out into the world in any way you choose to. And through animals is one way, you know, that people can do it, or however, whatever else it is I'm going to make. So yeah, so that's one part of the business. I also have, so I run a creative community where I encourage people to create, and we do more than sewing in there. So you can see my bad drawings and various things that I don't do very well, but I think it's really important that people do things irrespective if they're good at it. You don't need to be good at it. You just need to function and create and to move yourself forward so that you feel like you've got a connection with your deeper inner self and a connection with your environment around you.
Sure.
So we run a creative community. I sell sewing kits, that my created sewing kits that people can make, but they're keepsake sewing kits, so things that you can make for yourself out of your own stuff without messing it up, because obviously you don't want to cut up your baby's baby grow and then be uncertain how it's going to go. You want to know that you're going to do it well. And so I've kind of created these kits that make it so people can do it. So they can take, even without having great skill, they can take the an essence of what I do and my team of ladies do, and enjoy that themselves without the fear that it's going to go hideously wrong. They probably can't make bears. They probably will find that too hard. But so I've made things that people can make that will be okay, and I know they're fine, because people have made them and they are absolutely, and they're lovely and they're great. I think that's all I do. Oh, and I teach people to sew as well, like, you know, actually one-to-one sewing lessons with real people. Yeah, so I do a lot of different things.
Fantastic. You can tell how passionate you are about it, because you really sort of come alive when you're talking about it. So that's very cool. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been really interesting hearing about your journey and all the different tweaks and changes that you've made, and how one thing has sort of led to another. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I'm sure there's going to be someone out there that might have just received their diagnosis that's wondering where life's going to take them next. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. And tell them, so anybody who has done, they feel free to contact me. I'm happy to talk to people. They'll find me through my website and all the rest of it. So I'm happy to talk to people. I don't know what help I can be, but I'm happy to lend an ear.
That's so kind. Thank you so much. I'll share all the links to your website, etc. at the end. So thank you for that. If you like this video, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and you'll get notifications when new videos are uploaded. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. If you search @BeGlad Movement, you're bound to find us. Please do get in touch if you've got a story that you'd like to share. It doesn't matter if it's something similar to what somebody else has shared, because I really do believe your story and your voice has the ability to help people in their time of need. So please do get in touch. And I look forward to seeing you in another episode. Many thanks.